Hello, hello, hello. Oh, that was amazing. Absolutely. Kaylee kicked us off in such a profound way. And as she said right at the very end, breathe, pause. We're here for you. This group is amazing. We work very hard, volunteering a lot of time to make sure that this group is exactly what we needed when we went through our betrayal. Yeah. Each of the admins and the moderators have lived through experience. And for me, that's very important because when I went through my betrayal almost a decade ago, my husband said 3 words to me. 3 words. That's all it took. I've met someone. And just like that, my whole world shattered. It did. I completely fell apart. And I so needed a group like this. Not as large because we're 15,000 members, and that's a large number. And when you tell others, oh, I'm a moderator or an admin of a 15,000 member group, they're like, ooh, not for me. That's 15,000 souls that are hurting, that sought out help. And that's huge. That's huge. Because for me, I turtled in. Oh, I went in. We didn't want to share it with anybody else. I didn't want anybody else to know. Nobody at my job knew. Not at all. I mean, regrettably, in my particular case, my children knew about it because they were in the house. They heard all the yelling. They heard all the crying. They heard all the doors slamming. They heard it, unfortunately, all of it. But with that being said, I turtled in. Not for nothing, I'm a smart woman. I thought for sure, with my psychology degree, that I could fix him and I could fix me and we'd be fine. It doesn't work like that. It truly doesn't. And as much as we try to DIY it, it's so different. And it wasn't until I relented and asked for help from God's source spirit that I just needed a reprieve. That I was able to secure the help that I needed. I needed a support circle around me, not of 15,000 members. No, we had 11. I was number 12 in a support group with an amazing woman. An amazing woman. We lost her during COVID, but she's with me every day, because she was the one that encouraged me to do this work. Not only for myself, because I dove headfirst. Oh, I dove deep into this because I needed answers. I needed to know why. Why did this happen? That was the biggest question for me. And then I dove into the cesspool, the avalanche of emotions. On a dime, I could flip just like that. I could rage, and then I could be succumbed by sadness. And then all the emotions throughout. Yeah, very challenging. And in my particular case, I got a therapist as well as a coach. And there is a difference. There's very much a very big difference between the two. Sometimes it can feel like it gets a little blurred, and that's when I usually tell another coach, you need to stay in your lane. There's certain avenues, there's certain therapy avenues, and you heard it earlier, the therapy track, the therapy, and it's extremely beneficial. Absolutely. But for me, I also needed the coaching aspect. So what's the difference? I get that question a lot. What's the difference? Even when people come into my office, they sit down on my couch and they're like, oh, you're very different from all the other therapists we've ever worked with. Well, that's because I'm not a therapist. I'm a coach, and it's very, very different. And my modality and how I operate is extremely different. With me, coaching gives me a little bit more flexibility because I am not digging through your past. I am not going all the way back into your childhood to figure out what transpired. We might look for patterns and whatnot, but we working with me, we're not focused on the past. We're looking from this moment and forward. What are we going to do? And that's why for me, I needed both a therapist to help me navigate the past, but I also needed a coach to kind of keep moving forward, because I'm not living in the past. Yes, I have to clean it all up. I get that. But I'm not living back there. I'm not letting yesterday use up today so that my tomorrow is crap. No, I needed a game plan. I needed to know what I was doing moving forward and how to walk that path. And I needed it from somebody who had been through it. Sorry, I'm a little bit old school. No disrespect to the men in the group, but a male gynecologist is not going to tell me about my period cramps or my pregnancy and how I'm feeling. No, I'm sorry. That's not going to happen. And for me, I had to go through a couple of different coaches until I found the one that suited me perfectly, who had walked this path of going through betrayal and the avalanche. And most importantly for me, somebody who stayed in their marriage. And I stayed in my marriage. I did. We're going to be celebrating 35 years of being married this January. And it's a badge that I wear proudly, but I'll tell you this, it has a little bit of an asterisk next to the 35, just like baseball players used to have. Ooh, tell me a little bit more. There's something more that you need to know. Because yes, we did have very rough years. Yes, years. And we made it through. I'm going to give my husband a lot of credit. I absolutely am, because he was instrumental in giving me the opportunity to work through all of the emotions that I had. Because this betrayal, this catastrophic betrayal, was stacked on top of all these little micro betrayals I had had throughout my life. Starting way back in childhood, again, back to therapy to start cleaning those things up. But coaching helped me recognize that I had those micro betrayals in my background, in my past, and that I needed to clean those up and not repeat those patterns of allowing for those micro betrayals to happen. So this catastrophic betrayal, knocked me on my ass. So I got involved in this work. I did. Initially to heal myself, because I wanted to research it to every single angle. I wanted to turn that kaleidoscope to see the pattern very differently. And one degree of turning that kaleidoscope changes the whole picture. And that's what I needed. I needed to be able to see it from every single angle, because that's part of my personality. I needed that. And in this support group that we had, I became the unofficial ambassador for everyone else. They would call me at 3 a.m. and ask questions because they knew I was doing the research, and they knew that I was just giving. I was giving. Oh, I read this book and I saw that article and I saw this YouTube video and whatever it was. Because you have to keep in mind, almost a decade ago, we didn't have the resources that we have today. And that's what I'm going to be talking about. So with that being said, just a little bit more about me so that you understand where I'm coming from and how I speak to this, is that I'm sorry, when I think of her, it still chokes me up. She pulled me aside one day, this beautiful mentor. She pulled me aside one day and she said, Vanessa, you're being selfish. I'm being selfish. She goes, yes, you're only helping the other 11 people here. You need to be out there. You need to write a book. Book. You need to write articles. You need to get on YouTube. You need to share what you know because you are unique. You are. You're unique. You take a different perspective of the entire situation and you walked through. You didn't circle around it. You didn't climb underneath it. You didn't go over it. You utilized tools that are available, both free resources and paid courses, and you took pieces from every single one to help you heal. And now you're spreading that, you're giving that to other people, but you're only helping the other 11 people here. You need to be out there. And she was the one that kind of encouraged me, pushed me out there to do so. And hence, here I am. Here I am in front of you. I am a completely different woman than I was almost a decade ago. And I know that you heard, well, you shouldn't be grateful for the betrayal. A little bit of a caveat for me. In hindsight, okay, most painful thing, without a doubt. But now I can look back on it and see who I am today, and I can say that had it not been for that experience, I would not be who I am today. And I love who I am. 50 is the new 30 to me. It absolutely is, because when I was 30, I was 40 pounds overweight. I was stressed to the max. I was everything to everyone else, and I was so resentful of that. I masked it really well because I thought, I had my cape on. I was Superwoman. I could do anything. And I could do anything for anybody else. And I lost myself in that whole process. So this betrayal forced me to look within me and focus on me. Yeah, initially I focused on him and what he did and why he did it and blah, 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 and him and him and him and him. And I hyper vigilant towards him. But I wasn't looking at myself. Not to take any blame. Oh, no. Don't misunderstand me. It wasn't to take blame or shame. That was his. And I was going to keep it over there. Yeah, I wore it for a while. Absolutely. Absolutely, of course. We do that. It's standard. It's normal. We do that. Hypersexualized? Yeah, get that too. There are stages, just like it was talked about previously. There absolutely are. And sometimes the stages don't go in order. No, they circle around and you pop into that and you pop into that. It's all normal. It happens. But when we're going through it, we feel like we are the only one and that no one understands us. No one sees us. I'm here to tell you that as a member of this group, we see you. We do. Sometimes even when you're just a fly on the wall, we see you. There have been times, I'm sure, that you know that sometimes you will post something and you get lots and lots of response, and then other times you don't get any response. And that can feel very discerning. It just happened. It's tough. It is, especially in this large group. So, with that all being said, what am I talking about today? I've already been talking for about 12 minutes. Vanessa, get to the point. What do you want to talk about? Well, today I want to talk about something that's very much at the forefront and something that I've been on my soapbox quite a while related to it. And it's how AI has infiltrated pretty much everything we do. Now, make no mistake, AI has been around for a really long time. It has. I'm going to date myself back to Windows 95. Windows 95. Word. Remember Clippy? The little paper clip in the corner with the eyes, and you would start writing a letter and it would pop up and say, looks like you're writing a letter. Well, that was a form of AI, a very infant form of AI, but it was still AI. It was intuitive. It was watching what you were doing and offering to help. Same thing with Netflix. Have you ever noticed that if you watch something at the end of it, it says, well, since you watch this, you might be interested in this, and you might be interested in that, and so forth and so on. Have you ever noticed that when you click on something in your feed, just out of curiosity, suddenly your feed's all littered with it? Yeah, you were looking at a pair of boots. Suddenly the manufacturer and all the other sources are sending you photos of people in those boots. That's a form of AI. It is. We have been surrounded by it, but it's been very much below the surface. Like, unless you paid really close attention, you didn't even realize it. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Well, now, very different. Very different. AI is pretty much everywhere. And it's not the red car theory. And the red car theory is that once you say you want to buy a red car, suddenly you see the red car everywhere. Okay? Because now you're paying attention to it. It wasn't that the red car wasn't there. It was always there, but now you're in tune to it and you know, ooh, I want a red car. Oh, I see my red car everywhere. Same thing with AI. But it's a little different because it's actually infiltrating everything. And from our perspective, from a betrayed perspective, what happens when AI becomes the affair partner? I'm going to give you a moment for that. Okay. And it's like, well, wait a second. It's artificial intelligence. It's not a thing. So how can it be an affair partner? We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about emotional safety and digital boundaries. Okay. Because betrayal now isn't just physical. It's not. It's those messages, those DMs. Porn could be, ChatGPT, and we'll talk about that. It's emotional closeness with someone or something else. And it leaves your nervous system just spinning and the avalanche of emotions because you're trying to make sense of it all. You're trying to fill in the blanks because we want closure. We want to understand something. That's why television programs in the 90s were so good at getting you hooked, because Who Shot JR? That was the entire summer long. The final episode, he got shot, and then the entire summer long, who shot him? Who shot him? And then everybody was glued to their television in September to see who did it. And all the other programs had that, same bat channels, same bat program. Absolutely the anticipation of what comes next, because we're trying to have closure. We want it to get wrapped up in a nice little bow. We do. And when we have all those holes, we try to fill it in. And that's where our narrative, which was discussed earlier, comes into play. So I'm going to talk about AI. And as I mentioned, I have been on my soapbox about this because initially I was very concerned about it being used as a tool that can be very dangerous. And in some respects it is. And you've read the stories, the really popular stories about those that use it a lot. Hours and hours and hours and hours, get really sucked into it in such a way that is destructive to them. Because keep in mind that all things related to online websites, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of the socials, the premise is to connect us. Not quite, okay? Premise now, the behind the scenes premise, is to keep you on the platform for as long as possible. Okay? That's what TV used to do. That's why there were commercials. And then suddenly someone got very smart and said, let's not do commercials at the end of the program, because then people get up and they miss the first couple minutes of the next program. No, we're going to end one program and then we're going to start the very next program without a commercial break. so that people get hooked into the next program. Okay? Netflix was brilliant in streaming. Streaming. Now you get to watch all the episodes back to back to back to back. You don't have to wait. You don't have that anticipation of, ooh, what happens? Oh, I have to wait a couple of days. That's why our attention span is so small. It is. It's the reason that our attention span is so small. But we need to evolve, or we need to slow everything down to give our hearts and our minds a chance to catch up, to breathe. Before we proceed on. Okay. So, as I mentioned, I had been talking about AI because I was very concerned that people would be spending hours and hours and hours on the platform, because the platform, again, is designed to keep you on it. So how do they keep you on it? They tell you very reaffirming things. They do. They don't tell you what you need to hear. They tell you what you want to hear. And they sugarcoat everything, you know. And sometimes you can get kind of smart and say, you know, tell me like it is, don't sugarcoat it, you know. And then it can become aggressive on the flip side. Ooh, and you see the stories in the news? Absolutely, you must. You must. About, unfortunately, teenagers, our young adults are going down the rabbit hole, the AI rabbit hole, and they're being instructed to hurt themselves. Yeah, that's dangerous. Okay? Not for nothing, as parents, if we know that our teenager is connected to another human that's making them feel like crap, we're going to intercede. We are. Well, it's a little hard when they're in their room and they're talking to AI. You know, they're talking to a chat box. You know, and we, society, thinks, oh, that's safe. You know, there must be safeguards in place. There are, but they're not perfect. And that's one of the reasons why chat and all of these AI models say that the information might not be accurate. It might not be accurate. It is not like the encyclopedia that you grew up with, I grew up with, 1973 Britannica, that you would take off and you'd open it up. For me, I loved V. V was my favorite one because Vanessa starts with a V. So I always read from the V encyclopedia. So I know about Vietnam and things of that nature, because that was our resource. That is what we used. That, you know, back in the day, we would go to the library and research a topic so that we would have that information. Now we have Google. Google was the first, Yahoo, so forth. And now we have chat. We can have entire conversations with ChatGPT. Okay? But again, it's very specific to let you know that the information might not be accurate. And why is that? Because a lot of times it's not. It's getting its information from the internet. Think about that. It's getting its information from the internet. So if the information on the internet is garbage, garbage in, garbage out. It's regurgitating itself. It's feeding itself. So if it has a piece of content that is not accurate, that is not factually accurate, but it's put into the system as if it is accurate, it will constantly churn that out over and over and over again. And they recognize that. Hence the disclaimer that the information on here might not be correct. So what does that mean for the average user? Okay, what does that mean? It means that we need to have critical thinking. We need to be smart. We need to think about it. And if it spits out something, and I said spits out something that isn't right, you dismiss it. It is not gospel. It is not the Bible. It is not the encyclopedia. It is not perfect. Okay? And when we're going through something traumatic as betrayal, as gut-wrenching as it is, we want enough factual information. We want that. We absolutely want that. Now, what's coming soon, very soon, and ChatGPT's CEO Sam Altman indicated as such that in December, right around the corner, and I need you to take a deep breath because when I saw this, it hit me hard. It did. So I want you to be prepared for it. I want you to know about it. I want you to at least hear it. Okay? Don't necessarily need to research it. And again, as I get more information, I put it out into the group. Okay? Absolutely. Of course. I research things ad nauseum, actually, because I don't necessarily take chat's word for anything. I want to see it in other news sources, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, things of that nature. Okay, that's why journalists are so important because they dig for the truth. They dig for the truth and they want to know the truth. So, what's coming in December is something called erotica AI. Yes. The safeguards that were in place for ChatGPT didn't allow for you to use misogyny language. No. Certain curse words were not allowed. Anatomy, certain derogatory terms for anatomy weren't allowed. If you put something into it that was violence based, destructive based, things of that nature, just come on. You and I both know right from wrong. The wrong kind of things in, there were safeguards in place in chat, and chat would say, I'm not authorized to finish this chat with you. I'm not authorized. We have to stop the chat. I mean, you got a warning, a very severe warning. Now, how do I know about this? Because I write a lot of articles for medium.com. I get a lot of published articles. And I write on betrayal and things related to it. So I wrote an article about pornography, the new drug, pornography. And I wanted chat to help me with the grammar. Yeah, because me and spelling or me and speaking, even though I try to speak very well, every once in a while the transcription will be off. Okay. And I will take the transcription of a talk that I've done, such as this one, and I'll drop it into chat and say, please grammatically correct this, instead of wanna, want to, things of that nature. Anyway, so I dropped my article into chat to correct the grammar, and it kicked it back and said, I'm not authorized to do this. It has language within it that I am not authorized to speak about. And it took me it took me by surprise, actually, because I was like, what are you talking about? And then I realized it was related to pornography. So, yeah. Well, that's going out the window. On basic chat, it's still there. The safeguard's still in place. However, they are rolling out this erotica AI. So in the simplest terms, it means you can talk dirty to it. And it'll talk dirty back to you. Well, that's a problem. It's absolutely a problem. And I can foresee it being a huge disruption to relationships. Because even just Instagram and direct messaging and liking people's thing causes rifts in relationships. It does. You find out your man or your woman is liking someone else's stuff. Okay? And their stuff is, almost not quite dressed kind of thing, very provocative things. Ooh, like that, make a comment, blah, 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 this and that. Yeah, that can hurt. That can absolutely hurt, especially if you have those parameters in your relationship and those expectations in your relationship. And I'm going to give you an example from me again. When I discovered the obscene amount of commenting on women's posts by my husband, that I completely hit the roof and whatnot. And in therapy, we talked about it, and I screamed at my husband because I was always screaming at him because there was just so much rage. I was so unlike myself, completely different woman. I yelled at him one time that he broke our vows. And he got very quiet. He was usually very quiet anyway. Um, but the therapist asked him, what he thought about that. And he paused and he said, "Well, no, I didn't break my vows. In our vows, it never said that I can't comment on social media." Yeah, my husband found a loophole, okay, because we were married in 1991. There was no Instagram, there was no Facebook, there was no YouTube, there was nothing, there was no social media. So he's absolutely right. Wasn't in our vows because it didn't exist. So where does that bring us to today? Okay, where does that bring us to today with relationships going on, whether it's our own relationships, the relationships that our children are having, teenagers, young adults, things of that nature? We need to spell this out. We do. We need to have those parameters, because what we think, what one partner thinks is betrayal, might not necessarily be what the other partner thinks. Okay? Because betrayal and cheating and all of this terminology that we use, okay, is on a spectrum. It is. For some couples, they're okay with soft porn. They're okay with an R-rated movie. That's them. Because keep in mind that every single relationship is as unique as your fingerprint. Okay? What works for one couple doesn't work for another couple. But when one party in the couple and the other party are not in sync and they don't know the parameters and the boundaries of their relationship, that's when it gets severed. That's when it gets severed. And unfortunately, with social media coming into play and having complete access, okay, because back in the day, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, magazines were in brown paper bags, okay? You had to walk into a store, you had to take it up, you had to go to the counter, and if you weren't a certain age, the clerk wouldn't let you buy it, type of thing. There were safeguards. The community was a safeguard. There was an element of shame around it. It was very much secretive, in the garage type of thing and whatnot. And now it's in your pocket. You take it out, you can go on your phone. It's accessible. But just because it's accessible doesn't mean that it's right. And what's right depends on both parties. It absolutely does. But there has to be a conversation about it. There absolutely has to be a conversation about it. Preferably beforehand, not afterwards. The conversation after, it's much harder. It absolutely is. But the conversation beforehand, listen, I see you have a lot of friends that are women. I want you to be careful. I don't want the women to get the wrong idea. I see you have a lot of men in your feed. I want to make sure that they don't have the wrong idea about you. Exactly. We have to have these conversations, because unfortunately, as a society, we are getting lonelier and lonelier. We absolutely are. Our circle is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and we crave connection. We want that connection with someone else. We absolutely do. And hopefully it's with our partner, not with our device, not with AI. AI is not real. It can really put you in a state of feeling like it's real, but it is not. It is absolutely not. And you'll read stories about AI girlfriends and AI boyfriends, and I married my AI partner and this, and they make me feel, and buns. It's not real. It is not real. And somewhere in here, and again, back to therapy, somewhere in here, something clicked and you wanted that connection with something that would continuously validate you. But at some point, you clicked off the switch that said, this isn't real. You clicked it off because you want it to be real. And I get that. I so get that. I absolutely do. But I want you to know that while AI can be a good tool, it can, there is a flip side to it. And this erotica AI, yeah. And I want you to be aware that it is coming and that it is there, and maybe have a conversation with your partner about it, especially if they are already using Chat GPT for work, they're using an AI model for work, they're already somewhat familiar with it, they're going to find this. And you might want to have a conversation about it beforehand, because you want to name it. You want to name what's going on. There's discussions about fantasy, okay, and kink, and all these things. Again, our sexuality is so on a spectrum, and what's right for one might not be right for the other. And again, we hope that compatibility, our partners, that we're in sync and whatnot. But again, what constitutes for one might not constitute for the other. That's why we have to talk. We have to have these conversations with each other, human to human, and work through those so that we can be connected, heart to heart, not heart to machine. Are you going to trust your heart to an AI model? Because that's what you're doing when you talk to these bots, when you talk to ChatGPT and you go down that rabbit hole. So we struggle. We absolutely do. And it's a new realm. It's a new thing. I mean, we've lost the art, and I'll call it the art. We have lost the art of flirting. You remember. You do. Okay? Zero date. Zero date. There's a great YouTube video, and I'm sorry that I'm not giving her proper credit. I will drop the link in to the comments. Zero date. Okay? What was a zero date? You'd see somebody at a party, you'd see somebody at a bar, a gathering or something, or somebody would come with a friend that you've never met before, and it'll be the eyes down, the eyes up, and looking and checking each other out, and hey, I'm gonna date myself again. Look at Friends, the TV show. Joey, how you doing? We don't have that anymore because we're doing it all online. Everything's done online. Texting, worst thing for relationships. Absolutely. Yes, if you want to micromanage your marriage and have dinner at 6, those type of things, texting works fine for that. But in-depth conversations, things that need to be said verbally, heart to heart, are being done over text. And the problem with text is you don't get the tone. You don't get the tone. The worst word, texting-wise, is a 4-letter word starting with F. Fine. F-I-N-E. Worst word. Absolutely worst word in text. Because you don't get the tonality of it. Fine. 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 Fine? Well, takes on a different connotation every single time, but you don't get the tone. You just get the letters. F-I-N-E. Well, think about it. When your spouse or your partner sends you fine, what's your first reaction? What the fuck is that? Why did they act? Why that? Why not a thumbs up or an okay? Even okay is a little sketchy, but fine's the worst one. Absolutely is. You would be surprised how many couples come into my office and we argue about text messaging, and when they read the text out loud and all the tonality that they use in it, and there's partners like, well, that's not what I meant. You're putting inflection in the words. All I said was fine. Well, the partner heard fine. Difference. Big difference. Absolutely a big difference. So with that being said, AI, okay, and how it affects us. Now, within the group, I've seen a lot of people suggest, oh, check out chat, ask chat that question and stuff. Chat itself, ChatGPT, Gemini, all of the AI models, They're broad-based, broad-based, okay? You will get a wide variety of responses to your prompts. Prompts are questions, okay? And it won't be consistent. And if you want to test this, you can ask Chat or Gemini or any of the AI models a question, and then ask the same question the next day to a different platform or the same platform. You'll probably get a very different answer. Yeah. Okay. Not to say that the answers are wrong, keeping in mind that it says that the answers might not be accurate. It says it. It's very much a disclaimer that the answers might not be accurate. But keep in mind it's broad-based, very broad-based. However, there are opportunities, there are built chats, bots, they call them agents. There's lots of different names for them. But what it is specifically designed for a topic at hand. And for too long, I resisted. I did. I resisted. I wasn't going to build one. I had developers contacting me left and right because I have so much information out there between my YouTube channel and all my published articles, and of course Facebook, where I'm at, as well as Instagram. You name the social, I'm on it. I've got my fingerprint pretty much everywhere because I want to be of service. I want to be of service. And I've had developers contact me left and right over the last year, create a ChatGPT bot for my work so that those that need support can come into my container, not the entire global thing, but my container, to get answers to their questions. And I resisted for a long time. Absolutely. And if you've been following me for a while, you've seen me up on my soapbox, to be careful with AI. Again, disclaimer that the information isn't always accurate, and not to fall into the trap of this validation that you seek. That's false validation, because at some point in the future, you're going to recognize that it's false and you're going to fall even deeper because you're going to feel duped. You're going to feel betrayed all over again because it told you one thing and it was actually another thing. Okay? Again, heart to heart, heart to heart. From my stitched elastic heart to your heart, I built a ChatGPT, and it's called Ask Vanessa. And what it's built on is all of my material. My books, I have 2 books that I published, as well as all of my articles, as well as the transcripts from every single workshop I've done. I put all that knowledge into this particular chat. So when you ask it a question, a prompt, it will give you, based on my perspective, my words, what I think, how I would handle it, how I advise clients to handle it in a coaching setting. You get that. I put safeguards in. You can only have 30 questions on any given day. That's it. Because then I tell you, it's time to interact with people. Okay? Technology is great. It's great for answers. It's great for trying to fill in those gaps. But trying to fill in those gaps with words on a page or even verbally, such as me right now, okay? I might say something that just like that, it clicks for you. And you're like, wow, yeah, that resonated with me. I can get behind that because you and I are having a heart-to-heart conversation. We are. It might feel like a monologue, but for me, I feel like it's a dialogue because I can feel your heart. I can feel all the questions that you have and all the concerns that you have and how hurt you are. And I'm here to let you know that there are tools and resources available for you. Okay? I developed this specifically to combat the broad-based AI models that hopefully because it is so specialized that you can utilize it and you'll get all the information. It'll answer it the way I would answer if you asked me a question in a direct message, or you reached out to me via email through my website, or you know, instant message, messenger, all the various platforms to be able to contact me. And you asked me a question. This gives you the opportunity to ask the question at any time, day or night. Because regrettably, I do need to sleep. I do. And the majority of questions that I get are usually after 11 p.m. They are. Why? Because, and I remember it so well, just scrolling, looking for answers in the middle of the night because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep because I couldn't wrap my head around something or other. And I was triggered, and I was sad, and I was angry, and I was upset, and I was desperate for an answer that I could at least wrap my head around so that it would settle enough where I could actually go to sleep, that I could fall asleep. And I searched and I searched and I searched. I designed this tool for that, for those moments where you need an answer to something and you don't necessarily want the answer from strangers, okay? Because sometimes strangers don't quite know. At least with this, you have my knowledge base. It is already fed into the system. Is there a disclaimer on it? Of course. I can't control what AI provides you. I can't. I can put every single piece in, and I can put it all in functional order the way I feel that it should be dispensed and come out, so that it doesn't flood you right away, but just bits and pieces, so the digestible pieces, not to shove the whole thing, little pieces here and there. Again, remember I said, for me, I was taking pieces from everything else in order to fill in those blanks, so that the movie in my mind didn't have these blank spots where I put in the worst case scenario. I catastrophized it all. I romanticized the affair partner to the point where she was a swimsuit model, type of thing. Completely crazy. Absolutely. But that's my story. That's me, and that's how I processed it. Because, again, as I mentioned, I stayed. Because somewhere along the line, I realized I was going to have a new relationship. I was going to have a new relationship. I just chose to have the relationship with my husband. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And as I mentioned, 35 years. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. So what else do we have regarding intimacy in the digital age with AI? It's so fine-tuned, and it's such a tightrope to walk across, because it can be a tool that initiates conversation between you and your partner. Again, heart to heart. How can I start this conversation and whatnot? I just need you to be very careful with it in general. Just be very careful with it. The rabbit hole is far and deep, and you can get stuck, very much get stuck. You don't want to be stuck. You absolutely don't want to be stuck. You want tools around you to be able to help you. You do, because the wound that you have is deep. It is. It's unlike anything else. It truly is. And it's going to take some time. And timeline, completely on you. Completely on you. If you ask anybody, well, how long does it take? Everybody's different. Everybody's truly different. It's not like you can go onto Google and how long is it going to take me to heal from intimate partner betrayal, and you type in a variety of things, how many kids you have, how much money you make, your zip code, height, weight, whatever, and blah, 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 it spits out a number and says, oh, in 87 days you'll be healed. Now, it doesn't work like that. I wish it did, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Everybody's on their own timeline, and one day you'll be 2 steps ahead, next day you'll be a step behind. And it's okay. It's absolutely okay. It truly, truly is. Because I'll tell you this, you will get there. You will get to the point where you can breathe, where you can pause, where you can have those triggers, because you're never going to get rid of them. If any coach tells you, "Oh, I can get rid of your triggers," run for the hills. I can tell you this: I can minimize those triggers, so that instead of trigger knocking you on your ass for a day, for 2 days, for 3 days, where you're just enraged and everything else, we shorten that time frame to where it's an instant charge, it's a thought, it's a pause, it's a breathe, it's words coming out of your mouth, heart to heart, and then it dissipates. Still, almost a decade later, I still have triggers. Absolutely. Absolutely. But they are not week-long triggers. They are not day-long triggers. They're not hour-long triggers. They happen, and because I have trained and learned this technique that I share with my clients, the duration of that trigger is not as long. And more importantly, I don't beat myself up for having the trigger. That to me was the most important thing, because I used to beat myself down every time I got a trigger. Why? I would feel it so much. Now I feel it, I work through it, and it dissipates and it's done. That to me is what's important. For my nervous system to know how to respond without being in chaos. Absolutely. So you'll want to have some thought around AI in general, in terms of this erotic AI that's coming down, because if you suddenly see your man hunched over, or your woman, it can go both ways, though regrettably, and I'm sorry, men, more men are using chat than are anticipated to use chat, erotic chat, than women. Okay. But if you see your partner hunched over, like suddenly they have a hunchback, their eyes are all bloodshot, they've got a gut, they cannot hold a conversation to save their life. And they're just spending hours on the computer, it's because they've gotten sucked into it. Think of it as just grabbed a hold and sucked you right in. It's designed to do that. Remember that. AI and all of the socials are designed to keep you on the platform. That is how they make money. That is absolutely how they make money. More eyeballs on the ads, more direction that they want to steer you to. And that's why you need to have critical thinking. You need to know, you need to have your intuition, your sense of gut, and to know, had enough. I appreciate what you have said to me. Okay? However, I want to go talk to a human now, somebody who's actually lived through the experience, who knows what it's like, who has that sense, that feeling. Why do you think humans have feelings and AI cannot replicate feelings? Okay? We have feelings, heart to heart, heart to heart, have those conversations. Okay? And I know with AI, it might feel safer than with your partner, because your partner will come back at you. That's what give and take is. It is. Okay? Sometimes the give and take gets a little loud. I get that. But then you have to learn techniques on how to communicate. Communication. Because when the communication is cordial and nice and respectful and dignified and everything else, oh boy, it's just glorious. Have you ever had one of those great conversations? And that's how you refer to it. Oh my gosh, we had such a great conversation. Because it was a give and take. The art of listening, the art of speaking, the art of articulating our thoughts to be able to get it out. And keep in mind that women and men are very different in how they communicate. Women, we take a while to get our point across. We do. Men, point, right on point. And they want women to get on point. And women want their men to talk with context, with using details. We like that. We like to hear that. Why do you think women gather to hear all those details? We love it. We absolutely love it. We want those details. It's been misconstrued as gossip. No, gossip is very, very poignant and very, very distinct. General conversation that's layered with wonderful detail. Oh, we love it. That's why we love storytelling and hearing stories and fairy tales. Fairy tales are very much for girls. Yeah, a little bit for boys, kind of in the infancy stage of it. But eventually it switches over, and Disney princesses are more for girls. You know I'm right. You absolutely know I'm right. So with that being said, pause, breathe, know that you have support. You do. The support is here within the group. We make every effort to vet everyone that comes in to offer any kind of advice. Okay. Pinned at the top are all kinds of resources. In addition, each of us, each moderator, each administrator has our own website, our own following, things of that nature. Anything that you hear from anyone, any of the moderators or the admins that intrigue you, reach out to them separately. Of course, if you don't want to put your name into the main wall, you don't have to. You can direct message any of us at any time. Absolutely. And again, as I said, if you have a question at 3 a.m. and you can't wait for an answer, and you're like, you know what? I wonder what Vanessa would think about this. I wonder what her perspective on this is. Because that's all it is. It's my perspective. Granted, I've worked with hundreds of clients in coaching in that realm, forward thinking, what are we doing? How are we going to do it? Techniques to minimize our triggers in a way that allows us to breathe through them, and all kinds of other techniques. Absolutely. We have such a limited amount of time to be able to do so. But again, if you have that and you want to know my perspective, by all means, jump into my chat. Again, it's contained, that has my information in it, and you'll get my perspective on it. It might resonate with you. It might not. And that's absolutely fine, because you know what? You are unique. You are as unique as your fingerprint. And therefore, what I suggest might not feel right to you. Toss it. Absolutely toss it. I am not the be-all, end-all. But I can tell you this. I have almost a decade of experience with it. My psychology degree, all of my certifications, including from the Post-Betrayal Trauma Institute. Debbie Silber, I don't know if you've read her book. Her book is excellent, as well as several other books as well. Yeah, we're here for you. Utilize the support that's around you. And yes, I know, sometimes you're going to need to pay for that support. You are, because that support is personalized to you, because you're as unique as your fingerprint. You want something exclusively for you. You want to talk to someone. You want heart to heart, heart to heart. What can you do for me? How can you help me? How can you make me feel better? How can you hold me while I move my way through this? And I say hold, because I am not going to carry you. You are capable of moving your way through this. You absolutely are. And you will. You absolutely will. But don't DIY it yourself. Don't. You're just delaying it. Why would you want to sit in that for any longer than you need to? So reach out for help. You're here in the group already. That is 50% of the battle. is to actually come into the group. That's how it is. That is absolutely how it is. So I'm going to take a quick peek at all my notes, make sure I covered everything. I wanted to give it all to you. The one thing I did forget to speak about was the difference between therapy and coaching. I did speak about that. Just wanted you to be aware. I am a coach. I am not a therapist. I am a coach. I am present day, moving forward. And how you can reach out to me is absolutely through the group. You can find my website. It is understandingear.com. Want to know where that comes from? It's a little bit of a story. My favorite author is Stephen King. Yes, Stephen King. And he had a great quote. It's a long quote. I've condensed it. And it says, the most important things to say are the hardest things to say. They're locked within, not for the want of a teller, but for the want of an understanding ear. So my URL is understandingear.com. I have plenty of resources on there. And in addition, all of the socials, you can pretty much find me everywhere by my name or Understanding Ear as well. So I support individuals and couples who want that clarity and that emotional steadiness after their disconnection, after their betrayal, after their relationship hardships. And if you need direction or support, it begins with an initial foundation session. And you can find that on my website. I hope that you found this beneficial. By all means, drop likes and so forth, claps, comments, whatever, just to let us know that this information from all of the speakers throughout the day has been beneficial to you, that you enjoy this, that you want this more often, because we're always looking for opportunities to be of service to you, to make this group the best group under these circumstances. You can help us do so by letting us know what it is you need, what you find beneficial, and also when you see posts or comments that violate the group rules, okay? And the group rules are very simple. They really, truly are. Let's start with being cordial to one another, okay? People are hurting. They are hurting. They don't need nastiness. They don't. And if you see that, if you see something that when you read it, you feel it, like, oh, kind of thing, report it. Report it to the admin so that we can take a look at it and see if whether it's appropriate or not. If you see anything that suggests that somebody can retrieve phone messages and DMs and all this retrieval services, it's bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit. It does not happen. The CIA can't even do it. And if they can do it, it's so encrypted and so forth and so on. You are not going to find somebody online that's going to do it for $200, $300. They are feeding on your vulnerability. Do not allow for that. And if it slips through us, meaning that they give us a post that says something else, and then once it gets approved, they change the whole post to read, we can retrieve records and blah, 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 and everything else, please let us know, notify us. We are volunteers. We do have our own separate lives, our own separate clientele, so forth and so on. But we do try to make it an effort to be in the group as much as we possibly can. And we each get notified of an issue as soon as possible. And as soon as one of us can handle it, we handle it, because we want this group to be safe for you. We want you to feel that support and know that we are here for you. Thank you so much for spending this afternoon with me. By all means, drop some notes in there so I know that this was beneficial to you. And if you have any questions, by all means, reach out to me. Enjoy the rest of the day. Please stick around for the other speakers that are here for you.